Before we started, we made the decision, very deliberately that we will not make any money on this. Contributing to something that's bigger than me, contributing to something that is positive change. I think you've always known this, though.
For 50 lunches, I talked to a lot of different people. I talked to friends who know me. I talked to ex-colleagues who worked with me. I talked to random people I find on LinkedIn, authors, people with podcasts. And I think, Johan, you check all of those boxes. We haven't actually worked together, but we talked about work so much that
it kind of feels like we have.
I intimately know what you're doing. And I think you've been through all of my changes. Johan is my best friend since a long time back. We lived together in Stockholm. We actually shared the apartment you're sitting in now for about 4 years. So I'm happy to have this conversation. All right. So in your own words, Johan, also for the people who are listening to this, how do you make a living?
How do I make a living? You mentioned all the things that I don't make a living off of, podcasting, writing, all these things. But what I actually get a monthly salary from is being the climate impact lead at a company called Stegra.
Okay, so I'm curious about the way you started answering that question, because you said I've introduced the things that you don't make money from, podcasting, writing, but I didn't introduce your job. Why do you separate them?
I guess, the stuff that I mentioned before that, so podcasting, writing, etc., I think they really categorize as hobbies, as something that is not deliberately not connected to money. Before we started, we made the decision, very deliberately that we will not make any money on this from this. So we just want to, share the message that it is possible to live another life. If you happen to struggle with addiction like we have, then there is, another life is possible for you. And so we think putting money into that equation, which is kind of blur the purpose and the message.
So you mentioned earlier that it's important that your job has a purpose, and you kind of explained the purpose that Stegra has. Do you know what your personal purpose is, the purpose of Johan?
I guess I don't really, not specifically. I can kind of sense my way to what it would be. I think contributing to something that's bigger than me, contributing to something that is positive change for others, not just myself, is really important.
And I find that to be ridiculously unfair, because I've been spending 9 months trying to figure out my purpose. I quit my life. I bought a camper. I traveled the world. Same question. And I got to the exact same answer. I worded differently, but I've landed in that my purpose is to use my natural abilities and experiences, life experiences, to contribute to something bigger than myself.
I think you've always known this, though.
Why do you say that?
I don't know. It's just kind of it just seems that it's always been important to you.
You think I forgot?
I don't know. I don't really know. It's just like how you interact with other people, for example, how you think about other people's development. You're always kind of one step ahead of things. You have that systems perspective as well. You're very good at kind of assessing, analyzing your capabilities, which is not very easy for that many people. It's like you've always had this kind of clear view on, well, this is me, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm not good at, that, some other people should be doing that, I shouldn't be doing that.
I ask everybody this same question, so I'm going to throw it at you as well. From 1 to 10, to what degree do you feel you're living your purpose?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. It's not a 1, it's not a 10, it's above 5. But then, it all depends on like what you bake into that purpose, I guess. Also, if that's kind of connected to, is it mainly kind of work focused, or, my life contains more things than work. My family, my hobbies, etc. But I feel like maybe an 8.
So what would make it a 9 or 10 then?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, having even more impact, maybe, at work, let's say. Maybe having a bit more financial freedom, so that we wouldn't have to, well, I'm not going to say worry, but it would be easier to kind of do the things that we want.
So I'm going to drag you back to why are you good at this?
It really, it's complex and difficult enough that it really challenges me. I get to really kind of join the dots in many different areas. One of the frameworks that you've given me is the visionary, the builder, and the operator, I think. Right. And I'm really, I'm really the builder kind of type. I love working with visionaries who have like crazy ideas that, I mean, of course I need to believe in those ideas as well. They can't just be crazy. But I need to like the direction that we're going in. And okay, well, that's a really big stretch. Well, okay, sure, we can do that, but then A, B, C needs to happen, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can make that happen. And kind of, I can build that. But I'm not the guy operating that. I'm not the key account manager. I mean, the talk of the town is like AI. And even though like they had the CEOs of the big AI companies, they're like, well, not even we could predict, 6 months before or 9 months before where we would be today. And I'm thinking, so then how could I, if they can't even, maybe they can imagine, but not predict what's going to happen in, 6 to 9 months, then, where will we be in 5 years, 10 years? The only thing that we can know is, a lot of things will happen, and it's difficult to kind of charter that course.
It seems change is happening faster than
we're
used to.
No, for sure. I think that's exciting. So the question kind of becomes, well, how do we navigate in that then? When we don't know, and maybe we haven't known, but we think we've known. Now we can be really sure that we don't know. So it's a more kind of defined level of insecurity.
So part of me navigating what's next is trying to navigate that, right? Trying to figure out what are the areas in this future that I can contribute towards.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be some big waves, and how do I use my skills and abilities in, I'm not going to say the best way because there's so many different ways, but in a good way.
Yeah, that's a good question.
To be able to contribute to something better. All right, should we switch it up and have a look at my Ikigai?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, share my screen here. Let me know when you can see this.
Hi, I'm Ken. Let's have a lunch.
Let's have lunch. So you've seen versions of this, and I suspect you're going to recognize a lot. But there are some new things. We can talk about that. And I'm sure there are a lot of gaps. And that's really one of the benefits of having people who know me well. Part of these lunches is that you have an ability to see maybe things that I don't find to be obvious. So let's start at the top, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time reading this for you, but you'll probably recognize all the things I love. Technology, from like my love of gadgets to reading tech news to using the newest technology in whatever I do. Creativity is more my guitar and my music, now more recently YouTube.
Yeah.
And personal development's always been there, right? Growing myself, but also helping grow others. Yes. The great at part, some of these are learned. Some of these are probably more innate abilities. But you already talked about strategy and analysis. I have coaching and mentoring there. I love lifting others. I do that at work, but I also do that just as a hobby. Teaching and storytelling is new. You haven't seen that one written down before. And leadership. You've seen me in several different leadership roles, so that probably shouldn't be a surprise. I'll skip to what the world needs. And as you can see, we're different here. I'm not as interested as you in the politics parts of it. But I do feel like the world needs happiness and purpose. We spoke about AI, and I think AI is going to be big over the next years and decades. I don't know what it's going to lead to. Nobody does. but I worry that there's going to be less work and that people are going to struggle with meaning. What do we do when we have all the time in the world?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yes. So that's one that I think I'd be able to contribute towards. And then better leadership. Like our leadership at best is average. And I think I could contribute towards helping create better leaders, which would impact a lot of people.
So in a general context or in a particular context?
That's the bottom circle, to be honest. Because I think all of this can be applied in particular contexts. It's almost like you get to connect the dots. I could use my passion for personal development and my experience as a leader to help create better leaders.
Yes.
Right? And how would I do that? I could consult. I could start a company that does that. I could create content for it and teach on the internet. So I think that's the beauty of this framework, that you get to connect the dots. Paid for at the bottom. This is the one I feel is less baked.
Yeah, I'd say so as well.
I've written stuff here. I've written words, but they don't necessarily mean a lot. And this is where I'm trying to get a lot more clarity. Because if I could figure that one out, then I think I'd be home. So I'll let you just reflect on this. Ask any questions that you have, any comments.
Yeah, I mean, I really think the paid for part is where I poke some holes. I mean, I think, and you've actually said a few things already that aren't there, and maybe that's intentional, maybe it's not. But I mean, consultants. You've mentioned a couple of times that's not on there. Maybe it's because you don't want to, but I mean, you'd get paid for it.
No, you're dead right. It's actually, this is funny. Let me see if I can find it for you quickly. Here is the most recent version. It's the same picture, but you can see my handwriting.
Yeah.
And consultant has been added to it from a previous conversation. So you're dead on. I'm not in any way against consulting. I enjoyed my consulting days.
And I mean, so that can be consultant, like advisor. You could be, advising leaders. That is not necessarily coaching them, but rather, stepping into a role where you actually have some answers, not only, coaching them to find their own answers. So that would be a really kind of a senior advisory role, I would say. That could be a really good fit. And I mean, I like applying that kind of lens that we spoke about a few minutes ago, the kind of the visionary, the builder, and the operator. But I mean, I think that you are great also as a visionary, which is maybe reflected here as, in the founder, leader category. Being a founder of something, you'd have to have a vision. And you're also good at building. So you can take either one of those, all dependent on maybe, the particular context.
I'll take a big note on that. It's interesting because you said I give you the framework, visionary, builder, operator. I have a new framework.
Let's go.
And I wish I had it here now documented. I'll walk you through the basics of it. But it's connected to Dharma.
Okay.
Dharma is a Hindu-Buddhist philosophy saying that we're all born on this earth with a purpose, a place. The Hindus call it the caste system, and I'm not sure if I believe in the caste system, but they say that we're born as part of a bigger puzzle. And we don't necessarily know what piece we are, but to find out, we're given a natural set of abilities, things we are just very good at. That comes natural to us through our life. And as kids, that's what we were doing. But then we forget. Society has expectations on us. Maybe it's not cool to be that. And we go develop other skills. But what this theory says is that if you find out what your natural abilities are and you use them, then you're living your purpose. So that asks the questions, what are my natural abilities? And I found a framework. I love frameworks. This is by Sahara Rose. And I don't think it's the most scientific framework, probably not the deepest investigated frameworks, but it says we have 9 Dharma archetypes, 9 different types of profiles or personalities, and they can be warrior, caretaker, entertainer, entrepreneur. So I kept reading the list. I can't rattle them all off by head now, but then I got to teacher and visionary. These are 2 other profiles. And reading about teacher, I'm like, everything here resonates with me.
That's interesting.
I've never considered myself a teacher. You haven't seen it on my Ikigai before. But in any situation, every job I've had, I've always found a way to teach.
Yeah, I mean,
starting networks, coaching.
Exactly. Mentoring. I mean, the coaching part has been there as a very kind of natural part of pretty much everything that you've done, I think. So yeah.
And then I read about visionary, which also rang true. There's an online test you can take. So I had teacher as my primary, visionary as my secondary. But I scored very low on entrepreneur.
Yeah, because that was my next question. What about entrepreneur? Okay.
Yeah. Because I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and my ego says I should be an entrepreneur. And you know the whole Burning Man story, where I let some of that go. But I'm not. That's not me. I can do it. I have done it successfully. And there's a sense of peace in that. Like, okay, with that realization and knowledge, let's not chase that then.
Yeah.
Right? And instead focus on the things that I'm naturally good at, gravitate towards, and find joy in.
One thing that you are great at that has been mentioned in this call as well is that systems perspective, kind of connecting the dots. Which is, I mean, it's great to be great at that, depending on what you want to be paid for, of course. But I think also, I mean, that's why, I mean, that is one of the whys that you're good as a teacher, because you're great at giving context. And without the context, it's really hard to learn. So you're like, okay, well, why does this matter?
So I'd like to take the complex and make it really simple and easy to understand, which is why I love frameworks.
Yeah, yes. But, I mean, a framework wouldn't solve anything if you really didn't understand it. Yeah.
And apply it. I feel like I've gotten to a pretty good understanding of who I am. It feels authentic. Now, how do I turn this into a living?
That's a big question. Then, I mean, there's so many different tracks, though. I would envision you having, you know, your own, I don't know. Okay, let's just brainstorm, like a niche kind of advisory firm where you could really like apply both all the stuff that you know from AI on how companies work, what works in a scale-up world, what works in a more mature world, how should we develop the team. I mean, there's so many benefits I could see, from a CEO that would kind of take you in as a senior advisor to him, her, and or the management team.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I think maybe there. I was also toying around with the idea of kind of board work, but it doesn't ring as true, because then you'd be further away from the people. I think people like Kenneth are most needed inside the companies, not on the board level. Because there you get to work on, if anything is kind of faulty with the strategy. If there is I think that you'd be able to kind of tell, is this strategy realistic or not with the kind of market that's out there or with the capabilities that we have in the company. Okay, let's say that it's not. Okay, well then we have to change it. Then you'd be really good at facilitating that kind of process. And let's say that they have a realistic strategy, but they can't execute on it. Okay, well then we need to work with the teams, or do we have the right organization? Are they working well together? What needs to change? Like all these things. I think like you'd be really well equipped at working on all those areas, which is why I think you'd be a perfect kind of one-stop shop for senior advisory. That's at least, my 2 cents in this.
Okay. I mean, it sounds a little exciting when you mention it. So I get a good feeling in my body, right? How would I start? Like if I say I want to turn it into a little experiment to see if it's right.
I would connect you with one of my dear friends, Mikael Johansson, who has done this for like 20, 30 years in his own like niche consultancy. You should have one of these lunches with him. Otherwise, I mean, kind of more I guess defining what areas you would be advising in, so that if I were a CEO, I would say, okay, well, I actually need help with these things, and I don't have to hire anyone. I don't have to build a team. I can just I can hire kind of services for this, and let's see how that evolves.
Okay, cool. I'm in a big star and a big circle around senior advisor. Appreciate that. And it's one of the things I'll add to the list to explore. And with that, I think we're at a good place to wrap it up. You mentioned Mikael Johansson, so I'll ask you for an introduction after this. It's always great speaking with you, Johan. We have a date for Malaga planned, so I'm looking forward to seeing you in person.
Yeah, me too. Can't wait.
Bye. All right, take care.